Hello everyone. Before we dive into today's topic, we want to take a moment to thank you for your support. Every like, comment, and subscription truly makes a difference and helps this channel grow. If you enjoy our content and don't want to miss our upcoming videos, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive all notifications. There's a box. But it's not just any box. It's a boundary between what you know and what you can't even imagine. Inside that box, invisible to the eyes but crystal clear to the mind, lies a mystery. There's a cat. And that cat might be alive. Or dead. Or, and here's where it gets absurd, it might be both things at the same time. A creature teetering on the edge of existence, suspended between two worlds, between two opposite outcomes, between two versions of reality. Does that sound crazy to you? Yet this is exactly where one of the greatest enigmas of modern physics begins. Schrödinger's cat paradox is not just a thought experiment, it's a mirror. It reflects our way of thinking, our certainties, and above all the limits of what we consider possible. Until you open the box, you won't know. Until you observe, you cannot know. And in that not knowing, in that ambiguous state that defies the black and white of common logic, lies the beating heart of quantum mechanics. A universe that does not operate according to the usual rules of our daily experience, but dances in a symphony of probabilities, superpositions, and sudden collapses. It was 1935 when Erwin Schrödinger, one of the most brilliant theoretical physicists of his time, proposed this provocative vision to highlight the contradictions inherent in the Copenhagen interpretation, one of the dominant models of quantum mechanics. The idea was as simple as it was unsettling. Take a radioactive particle, a Geiger counter, a small hammer, and a vial of poison. Seal them all, along with a cat, inside a hermetic box. If the particle decays, the counter detects it, the hammer is triggered, breaks the vial, and the cat dies. If instead the particle does not decay, nothing happens and the cat remains alive. But the particle, in the quantum world, is neither decayed nor intact, it is both. It exists in a state of superposition. And so, by the same rules, so does the cat. It is not dead. It is not alive. It is both. Only when we open the box, that is, only when we observe, does the system collapse into a defined state. And it is in that moment, and only in that moment, that the cat becomes either alive or dead. This phenomenon is called the collapse of the wave function. Until observation, everything is possible. Everything exists in potential, like a dream waiting to be dreamt. Reality behaves like a set of infinite futures, each of which can materialize only when someone looks at it. It is a silent dance between possibility and awareness, between potential and act. But who, or what, causes this collapse? Is a measuring device enough? Or is consciousness necessary? It is precisely at this point that physics begins to trespass into the territory of philosophy. If consciousness is what determines the collapse, then we are not merely spectators of the universe, but co-authors of it. If reality depends on observation, then it does not exist independently of us. It's as if the entire world were a blank slate, and our eyes were the chalk that writes, that traces, that defines. A view that might seem exaggerated, but which is supported by decades of theoretical reflections and even some experimental evidence. It's no longer just a question of particles behaving strangely. It's a question of consciousness, of identity, of existence. If every observation collapses a reality, then every mental act is a creative act. And here the boundary between science and spirituality begins to dissolve. Ancient Eastern philosophies have spoken for millennia of an illusory world, of a reality that arises in the mind. Vedanta defines the world as Maya, a dream of consciousness. Buddhism holds that everything originates in the mind. What you think, you become. Even Plato, with his allegory of the cave, reminds us that what we see are only shadows, projections on a wall. But who is the projector? And who is watching? Perhaps it is us. Each of us, the true architects of the universe we perceive. Science tells us that light before being observed is neither wave nor particle, but both. Only observation forces it to choose. And if everything that exists obeys this logic, then so does our daily life. Every time we choose, every time we think, we collapse one of the infinite versions of our existence. Every gesture, even a small one, is a cosmic decision. Reality is not a predetermined flow, but a dynamic mosaic that takes shape through our gaze, through our presence. The cat paradox is no longer a mental game. It becomes a silent call, an invitation to recognize that reality is not something that happens to us, but something we co-create moment by moment. Every thought is a choice. Every emotion, a force that guides the collapse. You who are reading, who are thinking, who are imagining, are already altering the universe. You are a point of consciousness interacting with the whole. And every mental act of yours opens or closes boxes, activates worlds, dissolves others. We are all cats waiting. Waiting to be chosen, to choose who to be. Schrödinger did not want to kill an animal. He wanted to kill a certainty. That reality was fixed, independent, indifferent. On the contrary, he suggested that what exists out there is inseparable from what we are inside. Consciousness is not a spectator, it is the protagonist. Every act of observation is not just a moment of awareness, but a creative act. The wave function, which contains all the possibilities of a system, is like a melody not yet played, a silent symphony waiting for the conductor's baton, and the conductor is you. When you choose, when you observe, you start the music. And that music is reality. But then what happens if no one observes? The world remains in suspension, floating, like a dream waiting to be dreamt. This leads us to even deeper questions. Does reality exist without us? Or does it take shape only at the moment consciousness illuminates it? If so, the cosmos is not a blind mechanism, but an organism that pulses in resonance with awareness. Einstein, faithful to a classical and deterministic vision, rejected this possibility. He said, God does not play dice with the universe. But quantum physics, in its deepest layers, seems to suggest the opposite. The universe plays, oh yes, it plays. It not only rolls the dice, but lets our minds read the result. And the result changes depending on who is watching. Experiments following the cat paradox have further radicalized this concept. Wheeler's famous delayed choice experiment, for example, shows that a particle can behave as a wave or a particle depending on the observation, even if that observation happens after the particle has already passed through the apparatus. In other words, the future can modify the past. Reality is not fixed in time, it is plastic, adaptable, malleable. Past, present, and future are not sealed compartments, but interconnected nodes in a quantum network. A change in one ripples across the others. This view of time, not linear but entangled, forces us to rethink all our conceptions of causality. We are not just the result of our past experiences. We might also be, in part, the reflection of the future that awaits us. So what is our role? Are we simple observers locked in a timeline? Or are we multi-dimensional creators, capable of influencing even what we believe has already happened? Physics does not yet have definitive answers, but it has opened doors that once seemed sealed. Today, in the face of these theoretical abysses, we are called to a new responsibility. If the universe depends in part on our gaze, then every thought has weight, every act of consciousness a cosmic value. Perhaps the true frontier of science is not out there, among galaxies and particles, but within us. Perhaps the most advanced laboratory is the human mind. And perhaps the true experiment is not Schrödinger's, but the one that happens every morning, when you open your eyes and choose who to be. What will happen today? Into which of the infinite versions of yourself will you decide to step? And which reality will collapse under the weight of your gaze? The new mind of the observer is the key. It's no longer enough to observe with sophisticated instruments. We must observe with presence. With awareness. With intention. Every moment of your life is a closed box. Every choice is an opening. Every thought is a collapse. If you truly accept this, then everything changes. The universe is not something separate from you, but something that is defined through you. At that moment, you are no longer a cog in an impersonal mechanism. You become a wave among waves. A consciousness reflected in every particle, in every atom, in every breath of the cosmos. Perhaps this is the hidden message in Schrödinger's paradox. Perhaps he didn't just want to talk to us about cats and particles, but to offer us a mirror. A quantum mirror, in which we can see ourselves not as objects lost in infinite space, but as central subjects in a living, vibrant, and aware reality. And perhaps, after all, the real experiment was never in the box, but in our mind. The question is not, is the cat alive or dead? The question is, who are you, as you look inside that box? Because maybe the cat was never anything more than a metaphor for your own consciousness, suspended between what has been and what might yet be. And now, you. What reality will you choose to make true?